Hi, welcome to Nina in the Kitchen, where today I am making a fabulous, incredibly delicious cheesecake, and it's a very different cheesecake. So if you think you don't like cheesecake, I've had people who say they don't like it and they love this one. Fantastic. So here we go. First, I just wanted to start by talking about the hardware. This is a 9-inch, 25 centimeter springform pan. Has a little clasp, and I'm putting that in a bain-marie when the cheesecake is put in here. A bain-marie is where you put hot water in a pan and pour it around the cheesecake so that it comes up about halfway to 2/3 of the way up the sides of your pan. What I'm going to do is do that now with hot water. Turn the oven on to 350 degrees, which is 175 Celsius, and then I will start building the cheesecake. So let me get that going and I'll see you soon. This is a non-stick pan. Even though it's non-stick, I'm using a little baking spray on it, and that way I know for sure that this will come out of the pan. The first thing that you do with the cheesecake is make the crust. Now I'm doing mine in a food processor today, but you can do it by hand. You can just get a plastic bag that Ziplocs and just use a rolling pin and pound out these crackers. Now, this is one sleeve, 9 crackers of graham crackers. This is 5 ounces or 142 grams. And break these up, put them in the bowl of a processor. You can use a blender for this too, but you'd have to do batches. And just take them for a spin. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now I'm adding 1 tablespoon of sugar, that's just granulated sugar, and 4 tablespoons, which is 50 grams of melted butter. That goes in and pulse it. And this will all hold together. This goes into the bottom of a springform pan, and I've put a little parchment paper on this, and I recommend you do that if you want to bring your cake somewhere. The easiest thing I found to do to spread these around is take the bottom of a 1-cup measure, spread them evenly, and then just start pressing into the pan and a little bit up the sides. And then at the end, you just kind of roll this around very lightly, just to see if you have any lumps or bumps, any places that are thicker than another, and you can just pat them out like that. If you have a bain-marie and a springform pan, this can leak out and your bain-marie can leak in. So you just don't want to go there, and I'll show you how to prevent that in just a minute. But I don't have my fan on. I have a convection oven, and I don't use it for this recipe or for soufflés. Anything that wants to blow up, that action of the fan will kind of blow over it and keep it suppressed. So do not use your convection when you're making this cake. So we're ready to begin, and there's 2 parts to this cake. One is egg whites, which are beaten. Just to make sure that we're keeping the egg whites happy, I'm going to use a little cream of tartar in there and stabilize them. Then I have 3 cakes, that's 3 8-ounce cakes, which each one would be 127 grams. And the rest of this is 1 pint, 500 milliliters of sour cream, 2 tablespoons of flour, and I'm going to mix that with 1 cup of granulated sugar. And we'll just mix that up in a minute. I have 2 teaspoons of vanilla, 5 egg yolks, and we're going to use 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon juice. And I always grate the zest when I bake. That's not part of the original recipe either, but I am going to do that. So here's how we're going to begin. I have 3 happy little cakes of cream cheese, and they're going right into the mixer. And I'm going to beat that until this is whipped, and that's going to be about 3 minutes. The next thing I want to talk about is how to beat egg whites. You start out slowly and at a low speed, and when it gets foamy, that's when you can start adding things. Now, all that we're going to add to this is cream of tartar. I have 1 teaspoon cream of tartar, and that is just to keep the protein stabilized because we're creating a foam. And I want that foam to hold. I'm going to take them to a stiff peak, more or less, but you don't want them really stiff because think about it, you're creating bubbles and you're going to put them in a hot oven. You still want some of that tensile strength on the bubble to hold so that as the hot air expands the bubble, it's not going to burst and then everything falls. As soon as this gets foamy, I'm going to start slowly adding the cream of tartar. This is exactly where I want it. The peaks are stiff, they're leaning just a little bit, and that is perfect for this. So to make this base, I have cream cheese in here, and I'm going to beat this for about 3 to 4 minutes. I want it really light and soft, and then we'll proceed from there. The next thing that I'm going to do is just push this sugar flour mixture through a sifter, just to make sure there are no lumps going into this mix, because you don't want a lumpy cheesecake. That's why it's also very important to begin with room temperature ingredients. This goes in slowly. While the cream cheese was being whipped, I knocked these sides down a couple of times. Add the sugar flour mixture in about 4 installments. Mix it up. The next thing to go in is going to be 1 pint of sour cream. You don't want to develop the gluten, so the rest of this should be done pretty quickly, and all that you need to do is just mix everything in. So what's left to add are the flavorings. I have the zest from 1/2 of the lemon, and I managed to get 1 tablespoon of fresh lemon juice out of that half of the lemon, so that works. In goes the vanilla and the egg yolks. I'm just going to start stirring this. Now just take your spatula and just make sure that everything is mixed together. One thing that makes this cheesecake so very different from any other cheesecake that I've had is the texture of it. And if you think about it, this is just like making a souffle. We have the base, and then we have egg whites. And the egg whites, like a souffle, get folded in 1/3 increments. So about 1/3 of this goes in. The first installment of egg whites just gets mixed in. And unfortunately, those have to be sacrificed to the kitchen gods because they get beaten up. But it lets the mixture kind of know that it's going to be lightened up. So you can just stir this first one in. And then half of the rest of it goes in. There are 2 actions to folding egg whites into a batter. One is to scrape around the bowl, and the other is to go down the middle and come up and then carry it over to the edge. You see, you come up the middle over to the edge. When you don't see egg white anymore, then you've completed the folding. But this batter is considerably bigger than it was just because of all of those air bubbles that we've incorporated into this mixture now. So this is ready for the oven. As you may know, I teach cooking classes, and I made this recipe for a class recently, and it was such a hit that I thought, why haven't I done this? So that's why I wanted to do this for you today. You just smooth the top of this. In my cooking class, we were talking about how these pans are notorious for leaking. So one of my students told me that what he does is he uses these oven bags. I've never used one before, but when we bought this house, these were left here, and there's exactly 1 bag in here. So I'm going to try it. I think it's a great idea, which is even more proof that only the smartest people come to my classes. What I'll do is just tie that off with a twist tie, and this will go right into the bain-marie. This bakes for 1 hour, and then you open your oven door askew just a little bit, put a wooden spoon in there or something just to keep the door ajar, and you let it rest in there for another hour, and I'll see you when that happens. There she goes. Well, it has been 1 hour. Just wanted to show you how you can test your cake to see if it's ready. And that is, you just shake it a little bit. And you see how wobbly that is in the middle? That is actually perfect. You want that not to be set too hard, because as it cools down, it's going to keep cooking through the residual heat. This is going back into the oven. I'm going to turn this heat off, and I'm going to just put a wooden handle in the oven door, just like that, and leave that for 1 more hour. The bain-marie is empty, and I'll see you in an hour. We'll go to the next step. This just came out of the oven, and as you can see, it's still somewhat wobbly, but not like it was. So it has done some cooking. The cake has also pulled away from these edges. The idea of letting this rest in the oven with the heat off, with the door a little ajar, is so that this just gradually, very gradually comes down in temperature so that this will hold its structure and be nice and light. What I'm going to do from here is, in a few minutes, I'll take this rubber spatula so that I don't scratch the non-stick surface, and just kind of go around here and make sure that this has truly released from the whole pan. I'm going to just put this right back in this bag. I'm loving this bag. I think I have to buy some now. But I'm going to put this back in this bag, but you could cover it with plastic wrap. When it comes down to room temp, you put it in the refrigerator, and it has to chill for at least 5 hours, and overnight is best, which is what I'm going to do. So tomorrow we'll cut into this, and I will show you what that looks like then. Welcome back. This is the cheesecake. I just took it out of the frame. So now I'm going to try to take this off of here. We still have the parchment paper underneath this. I can see it. Okay, let me just see if I can do it this way. Okay, drum roll, please. Hey. Well, that worked out. So if you want to travel with it somewhere, that's the way to do it. Wherever you take this cake, I'm telling you, it will be the hit of the dinner. I should have wiped that, but that's okay. I guess I was too excited. I wanted to get into this cheesecake. What's really unique about this cheesecake is the texture. It's light and fluffy. You see, it's very crumbly and light. So when you put it in your mouth, it sort of melts on your tongue, much like a souffle. It sort of melts, but then when you swallow it, you realize that was very rich. So that's what makes it unique and incredibly delicious. I hope you try this recipe. This is a keeper. Thank you so much for watching, and come on back for more stuff. If you make this, let me know. Bye, guys.